Well, welcome everybody. We are not looking at the sun with binoculars. We're going to talk about seeing the sun being the eclipse Saturday. Glad that you're with us. Welcome to the American Space Museum. I'm Marquette, and we're so glad you want to stay star curious with us today. We're going to talk about our favorite star, our most important star, that is our sun, called S-U-N, called Ra by the Egyptians, and I forget what the Chinese called it, Z, I think. But it has a name, and our moon is just called Moon, the moon. Sometimes it's not even capitalized moon. There's over 200 moons in our solar system, and ours is just called Moon. That's the shadow of the moon. And you can just barely see some of the Maria and a few craters over here that my friend Mark Poole took that picture. He's in our Backyard Astronomy Club, and he superimposed the moon over this Pac-Man eclipse for the people that saw it partially like we did here in Central Florida. And it's the Ring of Fire eclipse for those of you out in the southwest part and western northwest of our great country here. So we're going to see some pictures of that today and talk a little bit about the eclipse. Get you thinking about April 8th. It's not too far away. April 8th is when a total eclipse of the sun will be seen by almost half. 2/3 of the American populace will see at least a partial eclipse, and over a third of us will see a total eclipse wherever you go. And some of you may have to travel for it like me. I'll be traveling to my hometown of Findlay, Ohio, where telescopes and stargazing and astronauts all began for me. So I'm hoping to be up there with my mom and see it with some friends. It's safe now to use your binoculars and go outside at night. In fact, probably not tonight. Yeah, maybe tonight, Monday night. Some of you will see a thin crescent moon after sunset. And that moon was this moon right here Saturday that was just lined up just right to pass in front of the sun. Sometimes it's above the sun and sometimes it's below the sun, but it's always up in the sky whether you can see it or not. So, but we're going to talk about show you some of my friends' photos, show you a little eclipse party we had at the Merritt Island Veterans Memorial Center Saturday with Backyard Astronomical Society. So get your eclipse on here. You don't need eclipse. You can still use those eclipse glasses, by the way, to see sunspots like this one. That is a cool area of the sun. The sun's very active with sunspots. We've been talking about it on Stay Star Curious for months now. For at least another year, the sun's going to be very active. You can use those solar eclipse glasses anytime to look at the sun. And when we say there's a naked eye sunspot, get those eclipse glasses out and you can see it. Well, let's kick our day off here by saying hi to Marty Winkle, my co-producer. Marty, how you doing? Did you enjoy a nice weekend and ready for more Stay Curious?
Yep, I'm doing good, Mark, and yeah, had a good weekend. Glad my football teams won. Good weekend.
Miami and who else?
The Jets won.
Yeah, Jets won.
Yep.
Jets won. Yep, and the Browns won, upsetting San Francisco, my team. Marty, where'd you see the eclipse at, if you did? We didn't talk about that in our pre-production meeting.
Mark, I'm embarrassed to say I was watching football and totally forgot about it.
Oh, well, okay. Hey, I don't mind him admitting to that because there's a whole sector of all of you out there who could care less about this stuff. And I should have texted you and sent you a picture, Marty. My fault for you to go out there. That's what we're there for. But we were quite busy and we had a lot of fun, and let's see some of that fun. But we need to talk about our American Space Museum here, Marty, because as Marty knows, as our volunteer here, we are down to a bare bones operation, folks, here at the American Space Museum. Of course, it's Halloween time, so ha ha ha, they're big LOLs, right? But seriously, our American Space Museum, like all of the nonprofits in our great country, need help from you to help sustain us. And those of you that love space, astronauts, the shuttle program, astronomy, we want you to give to our Galaxy of Giving beginning November 1st. We're going to create a constellation like we did in previous years with your donations of $100 or more. And we'll be even giving some incentives out to those of you that give more substantial donations in the $500 to $1,000 range. Your QR code can go to our website right there and donate anytime. But if you donate now before November 1st, tag it as the Galaxy of Giving, and we will need this money for our daily operations, general fund. Of course, everything has gone up. The cost of we're a nonprofit. Cost of paper, ink for computers, printers, such like that. But all of us here at the museum are flipping my notes over. I flip them over and reprint them. So we are always on an austere program here as a proud Brevard County nonprofit, where we say we celebrate the birth of the American space age right here in its delivery room, Brevard County, Florida. And we're just 10 miles away from the launch pads out there at Cape Kennedy, and we take any amount of money. Yes, it doesn't have to be just $100 or $50. We'll take $5. And when you go on YouTube and look at the rebroadcasts of a show, you can see a little icon at the bottom of the picture that has a dollar sign and it says thanks. And there you can give from $2 to $500 with a click. All right. Now we get 70% of that. We'll be up front and say that when you give to YouTube that way, they take a 30% share. We can't control that. We're grateful for that because we are getting out there to people we never thought we'd get out there before, like you, Robert Law, up there in Dundee, Scotland. And why do we need support from you? Because COVID hurt everybody. We were closed for 7 months. This is the first tour bus from the villages that came masked at the end of November 2020. So, and we love having groups come here. And so please earmark your giving this holiday season, tax-deductible donations for the American Space Museum. Yeah, Marty.
Mark, explain villages for those outside the state of Florida.
The what?
Explain what the village is.
Oh, yeah. People outside Florida don't know that the Villages is a retirement community about in the central part of the state. I guess it's northwest of Titusville. And it's a big community called the Villages. I've never been there, Marty. I believe all the streets are golf carts everywhere, right? Yeah. It's a very friendly community. You've been up there?
Yeah, I've been through there a few times, and there's a lot of golf carts, a lot of golf courses.
A lot of golf carts, and a lot of big television sets.
And it's really a big community. It's really basically a city.
The Villages up there, and they were all safe through the pandemic when we got through there. And one of the first we'd have tour buses from them all the time. But that's our beautiful front out there. One other advertisement for our friends in Orlando, particularly at the colleges around there, as Astronomy on Tap Orlando will be Tuesday at the Oveda Brewing Company. And that is going to have two ladies talk about asteroids, Rachel Lowers and Kayla Shang. So I'll be there supporting them on behalf of the American Space Museum and the Brevard Astronomical Society, and try to get these young ladies on Stay Curious, Marty. So Astronomy on Tap is around all major campus areas. The University of Florida Knights is the football team there, and these are kids that are learning astronomy there at this university. So, and here's our lineup the rest of the week. Jay Honeycutt, former Kennedy Space Center director and friend of our museum, will be here to talk about Apollo simulations and how they relate to today's simulations that are used to train astronauts and, of course, other space workers. Jelaine Spears. I have been anxious to get Jelaine Spears on this show for a couple years, Marty. She was the first female NASA quality control inspector, and she's got a lot of great stories to tell, and her son also works out there. And we'll have him on one day. So that's Wednesday and Thursday this week. Friday, future Fridays, we'll look at low Earth orbit, LEO. You need to get used to calling it LEO. Low Earth orbit's where the action is for all these small companies. And some will make it make it and some won't. And it's really a kind of a crapshoot going on, much like the early .com days, Marty. I kind of think of it as people get a lot of money for their dreams, and there's a lot of luck involved, I think, being at the right place at the right time. So we'll talk about that Friday. Jay Honeycutt, can't wait to see him on Wednesday, and Jaylene Spears on Thursday. Tomorrow on Stay Curious, we'll talk about shuttles of the month of Rocktober and the 50th anniversary of Skylab a little bit, which is those come out of my mouth. I want to say we had a great talk with Steve. I knew I was going to say Steve's name too quick. Steve Agate. Steve Agate was on our show and did a great program on the 50th anniversary of Skylab. Look that up on Stay Curious, American Space Museum on YouTube. Well, here is the great American eclipse of this year, October 14th, the total area there. And I want to explain something of what happens here. You see how the eclipse starts up there in the state of Washington, and the totality goes all the way through Florida. Through the lower end of Texas there. And everywhere else sees a partial eclipse. And as I use my Earth globe here, and my moon globe that is signed by Moonwalker Charlie Duke, okay, the moon casts a shadow in front of the sun, just like I cast a shadow by the sun on the sidewalk. All right. Well, as the moon goes in front of the sun and blocks out the sun, this shadow doesn't cover up all the earth. It's like focused right to a certain area of the United States that we see here. So it actually, as the moon is moving eastward across the sun at 2,100 miles an hour, the shadow's moving. So it starts up in the totality shadow, though it may be total at 130 here in, we might see the most at 130 over here on the East Coast, where we see a partial eclipse. Half hour earlier over Texas is when totality occurs. So, in a simple way of putting it, the shadow of the moon is moving across the earth. And when I called my little sister in San Angelo, Texas, at our totality at 1:26, it being 12:26 for her there, she said, "Oh no, 15 minutes ago it was total annular eclipse here." And that's because how the moon had to race further down the path for across its path of totality there. So very interesting. I thought totality is 1:26 here, being the most extension of a Pac-Man eclipse for us, would be the same in Texas. But no, it was off about 15 minutes there because the moon shadow was hitting there earlier. So that's the physics of the whole thing, and it took mankind until 400 years ago to figure all that out for sure, okay, with great men like Galileo and Copernicus and Kepler. But so don't feel like, you're not intelligent if you don't clearly understand all this. Like I said, mankind thought completely different things about this until 400 years ago. All right, let's look at some of the pretty pictures. One other note, only 3 eclipses on America, North America, the first half of this century. We just experienced one of them. The next one is in 2024, April 8th, as you see, and I'll show you a picture here at the end of the program. It's going right across a very populated area of America, from Houston to Austin, Texas, up through St. Louis, I believe, Cincinnati, Cleveland, all the way up to some of Boston, I think, might hit it. But the totality is going to be seen by a huge amount of Americans, over a third of the country there. And then in 2045 is another total eclipse, complete total. Sun's going to go out, daylight's going to turn to night. And look at that, Marty, it goes right over Florida, the totality there. And can you imagine in the middle of the day at the Magic Kingdom in Orlando's Disney World, the sun will be blotted out and the corona of the sun will be over that beautiful facility there. That'll really be something to see, as well as over Kennedy Space Center. Maybe there'll be a rocket launch that day. Who knows? It's in 2045, and I got a ways to go to eat. I got to eat my Wheaties and a lot of vitamins and get a lot of exercise like you, Marty, to make sure I make it. So you've experienced just the first of 3 eclipses. There'll be a partial one or two, but these are total ones in North America, the first half of this century. Yes, sirree, everything is big in Texas, as my buddy George Fleener proves there. Those solar glasses there in Kerrville, Texas, where he and a bunch of his buddies were at to see the totality along there. That is a cool display there. Thank you for sharing that, George Fleener. Some people had some awesome photos of the eclipse. Some were traveling on an airplane, and they got to see it through clouds on a cell phone. Right there, somebody posted that on spaceweather.com. Space Weather, an excellent source for just everyday pictures of astronomical events. There is Mark Usiak. Happy birthday to you, my friend, on Sunday. Mark celebrated another 29 years orbiting the sun, plus maybe 2 or something like that. And there he is with his big lens. And he was in San Antonio, Texas, all right? And our partner here with the American Space Museum, I'm going to have what he posted on Facebook there. Got what I came for, plenty more for where it came from as we look at these pictures here. There's a picture right on his camera. The morning started off with quite a lot of clouds in San Antonio. He was at the San Antonio College at a very festive event. But when it came showtime, the clouds were not in the way at all. Thanks to the great folks at San Antonio College for a very festive and family-friendly and educational event. Hey, how could it have not been more perfect with Johnny Cash's Ring of Fire playing over the PA system when I was taking this shot. And there he met Ellen in space, and a friend of hers there at the event. And Ellen's been on our program, and if you like her program, please come over to the American Space Museum and like ours as well there. But so a nice shout out to the crew at Celestron, Mark Usiak says, as he got this shot with a Ring of Fire by Johnny Cash was playing, he said. He tagged along with the Celestron Telescope group, of course. Great seeing Panvera Hyseni and Ellie in space doing a fantastic job bringing the excitement live to people on YouTube. So appreciate you sharing those pictures with us, buddy. I got a lot of good ideas looking at this Ring of Fire eclipse and other ways to show the crescent. Here's a person who used a colander, Marty, you know, what we throw our spaghetti in. And that is the Ring of Fire eclipse 100-fold through the holes of a colander. And I'm going to do that next time. Don't punch pinholes in a piece of paper. Take a strainer out there with you, a colander or something like that. Brilliant idea for the 2024 eclipse, April 8th. There's another Ring of Fire shot there by my buddy George Fleener. That's what he went and got for in Kerrville. The difference between this one and Mark Usiak's is just the color contrast and the filter being used. All right. Mark is probably using what's called a Bader filter that gives a cleaner white view, and this is more of an eclipse cover over a telescope there. But you don't see the prominences. Why is it this happened, Marty asks? Because the moon is farthest away from the sun, the Earth. It's about 270 miles away, so it's smaller. All right. When it's closest to us in this elliptical orbit, it is a supermoon, we call it. All right, super full moon. The difference between a super full moon and a regular full moon is the difference between a 10-inch pizza and the super full moon is a 10.5-inch pizza, okay? So this moon, if it was a full moon pizza, a mini full moon, Marty, if you will, would be like a 9.5-inch pizza to a regular new moon or full moon because it's farther away. So it didn't cover up all the sun, and therefore you got the Ring of Fire. By the 2024, it's going to cover it up completely. All right. Now there's a bite out of the sun that was taken by Johnny Horn, a friend of mine up in North Carolina. And Johnny said his wife Ann and him were in North Carolina mountains looking at the fall colors and other stuff in the natural world. And if we stayed in Stedman, North Carolina, his home, it had been clouded out. But skies were clearing around the Blue Ridge Parkway. And he didn't get much prep for this shot. He just covered it up with one of those solar filters that you could buy. Many people use their eyeglass filters to over their cameras and got lots of wonderful pictures. And this is a great picture of an easy way to just take a small, cheap telescope like that. I actually note that's an Edmunds Scientific telescope that they sold for 30, 40 years, and project it onto a sheet of paper like doing here. Now, the problem with this is that telescope's going to get heated up like a magnifying glass on paper, all right, and so you got to keep moving it around and maybe blowing a little air on it so it doesn't burn up. But there's a great idea for you to have telescopes. Don't ever look through a telescope at the sun, but you can project the images just fine. Well, at the Merritt Island Veterans Memorial Center behind the mall here in Merritt Island, Florida, the Backyard Astronomical Society and the American Space Museum teamed up to have a public event. It was well attended. Here's one of our young astronomers there looking through a small hydrogen alpha telescope. You can see on his screen the technology of today. Boy, 50 years ago when I was looking at my first partial eclipses, Marty, we had to develop the film. They didn't have 1 hour photos 50 years ago. You had to wait a day to get the pictures back to see if you did any good. Here, everything's instantaneous as somebody stuck their cell phone camera up there and shot a picture of the sun being eclipsed. Beautiful day in Florida. I could feel it getting a little cooler. We all verified that when we were about half eclipse, because not as much sun was being on us, we did feel like the shade had been pulled down a little bit. That is a safe filter on a reflecting telescope. We had several of those to show you fabulous views of the sunspots around the sun. And yep, I was dressed to the nines there, ready for the solar eclipse there with my glasses on. I've actually got a telescope I made with my friend Terry Alford, rest in peace, back over 35 years ago. And then I have a little Questar I acquired there to give me views of the sun. I'll show you a picture through that Questar in just a second. And here's another pinhole camera view. Someone just put a little pinhole in a card, projected it on another sheet of white paper, and wrote the eclipse from Fullerton, California. And there's the keepsake for you right there. Brilliant to write something on the piece of paper you're, doing. So think about this for April. You could say, "Hi, Marty, quit watching football and watch this. I should have done that and send it to you. I'll do it next time." There's the photo I took through that beautiful little Questar telescope with my Samsung Android cell phone. There, Hazel. Hazel always rubs in the Android, Marty. You also got an iPhone, so anyway, but very good. I can't believe the clarity in the penumbra on those sunspots there. And of course, we had a telescope that was had a feed into a computer where you could see it live there. Appreciate one of our members doing that. And this guy that was in the crowd, not even in astronomy, never met it before in my life. He's from the Boston area. He made some binocular pinhole cameras using the aluminum foil for the pinhole. Of course, toilet paper tubes perfectly. And you can see, for fun, a bino view of that. That is ingenious. Dave Stange, hope you are enjoying this and getting ready for the eclipse in April. You Michiganders are going to have about a 90% coverage there. So you want to cross the border down into Ohio where the good stuff is, okay? You and Larry Pushkar. Cynthia Rossi, thank you for watching. Gary Gerald, hope you got some eclipse viewing up there in Georgia over Saturday. Tommy Usiak. What'd you get your brother for birthday, huh? I'll find out later. Carlton Bailey enjoyed hanging out with CB over the weekend. He had a shot of his that I forgot to download through his beautiful iPhone camera, and I thought it was through a telescope. So maybe show you that tomorrow because I forgot to download that, Carlton, as we're both recovering from a long weekend. And Bill Whiting, heard you're jumping on a big jet plane and coming and see us soon here. So look forward to seeing you. And he is also one of our new volunteers that we want to wear him out, don't we, Marty? Got a lot of stuff planned that we need help with. Bill Whiting wants to help. So anybody that wants to help us, we've got volunteers to show up and do it. Well, let's see. Got a few more pictures to show you here. This is going out with a beautiful picture that my friend Mark Poole took of that sunspot. Actually has a name. It's forever called AR 3465. So 10 years from now when we're in rocking chairs and saying, gee, I remember that old Mark Poole took that picture of old AR 3465. That had a lot of electromagnetic energy coming out of it that created some nice aurora on Earth a couple days later. The detail you might see is the edge of the sun's not a perfect smooth. You can actually see craters and stuff bouncing off of that thing. Once occasionally see a mountain peak silhouetted against it. And that's the picture that Mark Poole took. You can see more of the sun, the moon, I mean. He superimposed a full moon over the sun to show you the orientation. We all know that bright crater is Tycho Brahe. And up at the top is first quarter. You'll be seeing a sliver of the moon. If you don't see it tonight, definitely tomorrow night as the moon begins marching across our evening skies, all right? Doug Forrest, I was thinking about you there. I've got a sketch I'm working on in pencil of my impression of the solar eclipse. Maybe I'll have it finished and show it to you here in a day or two. But got a guy that him and Chris Calley, both fabulous artists, have encouraged me to keep a pencil in hand and keep drawing, because you never know what happens, and I love drawing astronauts in spacesuits and lunar craters, and why do anything else when that's what you like, right? Here again is to get excited about April 8th. It's not too soon to plan to go somewhere. Now is the time, in fact. I'll bet a lot of great hotels are full. You can see it in downtown, all kinds of downtowns from St. Louis to Cleveland. Look at all the great cities in there that are going to have a total eclipse in the middle of the day. Not sure if it's the morning or afternoon, I forget. The rest of you take where you're at, all right, and you'll see on the right-hand side the partial eclipse that you're going to see. So, Marty, thanks a lot. Only 2 more total eclipses to live for. I'll be 91 in 1945. Hope I can have you there, Marty, to wheel me out in a wheelchair. So, hope everyone enjoyed today's special solar eclipse edition of Stay Star Curious, honoring our special star. Remember, anytime you want to help our bare bones operation here at the American Space Museum, go to our website and we can take your tax deductible donations. So, Marty, thank you for a great job on our Streamlabs production here. Anything else we need to share or say hi or goodbye to anybody?
No, we're all caught up.
All right, great. Well, we hope everybody, let me go here to this image to tease who we're having on the rest of the week. Not every day you get Mr. Jay Honeycutt on a conversation, and he chose his topic. He wants to talk about Apollo simulations that he worked at in Johnson Space Center. Many of them think of him as the great director and shuttle manager that he was. But Jay learned his trade at Houston, and a great guy, and that'll be a great program. And then Jelaine Spears, can't wait to hear from this lady, her stories of working at Kennedy Space Center in the shuttle era as the first female quality control person. So, all right, Marty, thank you a lot. We can't wait to see you all watching these programs. Until then, I'm Mark Marquette saying, come to our museum. so I can bridge the space between us.